Welcome in, everybody. Little bit of a, to say the least, bonus edition Aaron Torres Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Torres. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's having a great day. So your boy Torres just got back from the gym, and I saw some late breaking news that I just want to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes talking about. That is that Bruce Pearl, the Auburn head basketball coach, fresh off of a Final Four, fresh off, by the way, winning the toughest SEC, maybe the toughest conference in the history of college basketball, has announced his retirement. So everybody come on in. What I would say about the situation with Bruce Pearl, I want to dive in. I have a lot of different thoughts on this. I'm actually not very surprised by this. If you've actually been reading the tea leaves, I think there was some real thought that this was something that could be coming down the road here in a couple days. And frankly, I think there's a couple reasons why this actually makes a lot of sense to happen right now. So everybody go ahead and come on in because we have a lot to talk about. Drop your questions, drop your comments, drop your thoughts, and we will discuss in just a minute. Before we get started, this is why you got to be subscribed to the Aaron Torres Pod and Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. We got new clips, new videos going up every single day. Give me 1/2 second, okay? Give me 1/2 second. All right. So, make sure you're subscribed to Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day. I really do appreciate everybody's support. Sorry about the delay there. Had to deal with something again. Coming from the gym, this is all happening in real time. But make sure you're subscribed. Also, the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, because there is certainly a lot to talk about. Before we get started, also very quickly, as you can see on the screen here, do want to thank our friends, do want to thank our partners, SeatGeek and the SeatGeek app. Listen, I'll be quick here, but here's the bottom line with SeatGeek. It's that time of year. If you're a football fan, if your football team's doing good, guess what? You got a lot of games that you want to go to, all that good stuff, but basketball is coming, okay? And so with basketball coming, bottom line is you're going to need tickets to watch your favorite team. Maybe it's a UConn game on the road, or, you're playing BYU in Boston, Illinois at Madison Square Garden. If you're a Kentucky fan, maybe it's to see them play in the Yum Center against Louisville. But the bottom line is you are going to need tickets, and there is no better place to get tickets than the SeatGeek app. Okay, so SeatGeek is America's #1 ticketing app. Over 28 million downloads on the SeatGeek app. And here's the best part, is that SeatGeek takes care of listeners of the Aaron Torres Pod. Okay, so how about this via SeatGeek? If you go to SeatGeek.com, if you use promo code Torres, guess what? It allows you to get $20 off of any purchase. So any purchase, any game, anywhere you want to go to watch your team play, all you got to do is go to SeatGeek.com, use promo code Torres, gets you $20 off your first purchase. That is effective immediately. Thank you to SeatGeek. All right. Let's get into the news. Again, just coming from the gym. Apologize for the hoodie, for the hat, whatever. No, as the kids say, no more time to waste. Let's get to the topic of the day. And the topic of the day is Bruce Pearl is retiring, okay? I have a lot of thoughts on this, but let's just get to the who, what, when, where, why, and now. I think the logic and the reason and the logic is actually very simple, okay? So first of all, I will say this. Producer Matt is not with me again today, still traveling back from Norman, where he was with the Oklahoma-Auburn, he was at the Oklahoma-Auburn football game, okay? But the only reason I wish Matt was here, there was a video clip. Bruce Pearl went on John Rothstein's podcast probably about 10 days to 2 weeks ago, okay? Rothstein is great. I love Rothstein. He's as good as anybody in the business, passionate about college basketball. John Rothstein asked him very specifically something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, I wish we had the video, of basically like, hey, dude, you were this close. You were in a Final Four, a couple, leading at halftime against Florida, the eventual champions. Does it motivate you and make you want to get back to a Final Four being so close, to win a national championship for Auburn? And I actually thought the answer was pretty telling. He basically said, bottom line, He's like, not really. He's like, I've made 2 Final Fours at Auburn. This is Bruce Pearl on John Rothstein's podcast about 2 weeks ago. He said, I've won a D2 national championship. So my motivation to get back to a national championship game isn't actually that big. I've done it. I've been there. And he actually said on the pod something to the effect of, I don't think that I have more than a year or 2 of actual coaching left in me. And so as soon as he said that, listen, I'm never going to criticize Bruce Pearl on a personal level. He's been one of the guys that has been more willing than anyone to come on this show. But as soon as he said that he's not motivated necessarily to win a national championship, I knew he wasn't long for the job, okay? And so then the question becomes, why is he doing it now? It's a couple weeks before the season, this and that. And I just tweeted this. One of the things, there's a lot of things that suck about getting old, okay? I just went to a doctor's appointment the other day. Listen, thankfully, God willing, everything, I'm happy, I'm healthy, everything's good. But, you go to the doctor's appointment, all of a sudden you got more things that you got to get checked off the box as you get older in life, okay? But one of the cool things about getting older is pretty straightforward. It is that you get to see history repeat itself, okay? And so let me give you a little bit of a historical context of this situation with Bruce Pearl, because I think a lot of people are asking, how can you retire 2 weeks before the season? Let me tell you this. It's not Tony Bennett from last year. Tony Bennett was just like, screw this, I'm out. I don't want to deal with NIL. I don't think Bruce Pearl cares about that. What he very much does care about is everything that he has built, handing it off to his son, Stephen Pearl. And so the conversation becomes, I just said getting older sucks for a lot of reasons, but the cool part about getting older is that you get to see things repeat themselves in history. Well, I'll give you a little history lesson. September of 2013, okay, so that was now 12 years ago. The coach that I most love the most, the person that I would say has contributed more to me covering college sports for a living is Jim Calhoun. I mean, besides my mom, besides my dad, besides myself, my hard work, whatever, if you want to call it hard work, whatever. It's Jim Calhoun. I grew up watching Jim Calhoun's teams. I love Jim Calhoun. I love everything he's about. He is the reason that I cover college sports for a living. I grew up in Connecticut when UConn basketball, listen, they were our Yankees, Dodgers, Lakers, Notre Dame football, whatever, okay? September 2013. Jim Calhoun, in a little bit different because he was going through some health problems. He had a hip surgery, I think. But what was also very clear was that he wanted Kevin Ollie to replace him as his, replacement going forward. And this was before the trend where, Roy Williams got to pick his replacement and Coach K got to pick his replacement and Jim Boeheim got to pick his replacement. The AD at UConn at the time was a guy named Ward Manuel. Now, you probably know the name Ward Manuel if you love college sports because Ward Manuel has been at Michigan for about the last probably 7 or 8 years. He was the guy that was always in the news for all the crazy stuff that Harbaugh was doing. Ward Manuel would not promise Jim Calhoun that Kevin Ollie could replace him. So Jim Calhoun had I think a hip surgery or an ankle surgery or something, slow to recover in September, and he announced his retirement. And the reason Jim Calhoun announced his retirement in September was because he kind of strong-armed the AD into basically saying, look, you don't want to hire my guy. You don't want to promise me that you'll hire my guy. Well, guess what? I'm going to make sure that you have no choice but to hire him. Kevin Ollie has a pretty good 2013, 2014 season, or 2012, 2013 season. I guess it would have been the fall of 2012, so 13 years ago. Fall of 2012, retires. Kevin Ollie is pretty good in the fall of 2012 into 2013, wins the national championship in 2014. But I only bring it up because that's why you do it now. It's so the school has no choice but to name your son the next head coach at Auburn. And so if you actually follow the tea leaves, it's not surprising. Again, said on Rothstein's podcast about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, go back and find the clip. Yeah, another year or two tops, and I'm not, waking up, winning a national championship, standing on that podium on Monday night doesn't really motivate me. And then on top of it, again, why he does it in September is because this allows his son to get the job, and there's really nothing Auburn could do. Now, would Auburn have given the son the job anyway? I don't know. That's a question maybe for producer Matt, who's not with us, but I just bring it up because that is why this gets done in the manner that it did. Now, a couple other things on this. One, first of all, as far as the politics stuff is concerned, that is something I've heard. I cannot confirm. But yes, I actually think Bruce Pearl is going to get into a career in politics. I don't know all the details. I'm not a political person by nature. But there's some, what is it, a Senate seat or something? I'm sorry. I'm a very apolitical person. So like, I don't know what he would run for and what he would this and what he would that. But if you follow his social media feeds, he is very clearly passionate about politics. I think in his mind, leaving the world a better place. And I do think as you get older, right, some guys, they just want to be in a gym. And some guys have interests outside of what they do. And I think he's one of those guys. I think he's retiring as a basketball coach. I don't think he's going to be Roy Williams playing golf 6 days a week. I think he wants to get into politics, and I think he wants a career outside of basketball, okay? Really quickly, a couple other thoughts, and the chat is humming. We'll get to a lot of your questions and comments in a second. First of all, I want to say this. On a personal note, I want to thank Bruce Pearl. We've been doing this podcast a while now, probably longer than many of you realize. Bruce Pearl was really one of the first major college basketball coaches that I think really kind of quote unquote took me seriously as a guy that has a voice in college sports. He came on this show before it was, we have 60,000 subscribers now. I mean, I think he was probably coming on when we weren't even on YouTube or when we had 5,000 subscribers, and he never judged me or whatever. I think he was just pretty much a straight shooter of like, dude, are you going to be cool? Are you going to be fair? Are you going to bring up crap that happened 15 years ago at Tennessee, or do you just want to talk ball? I just want to talk ball. And I think Bruce Pearl always appreciated it. And I never went out of my way to reach out more than maybe once or twice a year, because I'm just not that type of person that needs to be texting people all the time. And I got a wife, I got enough stuff going on in my house where I don't want to be on the phone all day, every day. But every time I texted, he was great. His associate AD, or his, what do you call him? Sports administration, sports information director, Marlene. Marlene, if you're watching, you're the best in the business. So thank you, because I want to thank Bruce Pearl, because he was one of the first people that I think really just took me seriously as a dude and as a guy in the media. And for that, I appreciate him. Bigger picture, let me also say this. Bruce Pearl, listen, I don't know, listen, the day somebody retires is maybe not the perfect day to kind of contextualize like who somebody is, what they're about, all that good stuff. In terms of history, like, by the way, I'm not a big, like, this guy is in my top, that's like a big NBA Twitter, NBA media thing. Oh, here's my updated top 10 after Kevin Durant did this. It's like, dude. And by the way, this is a total freeform show, so I'm just going to say it, cover kids' ears if they're in the car. It's like, bro, I had to say it, cover ears. Nobody gives a shit, right? Nobody freaking cares. And so I don't want to do the whole, like, this is where, here's what's indisputable. I think he's certainly the greatest coach in the history of Auburn basketball, okay? Auburn had never made a Final Four before he got there. They get to 2, and I give him credit, too, because for a couple of things. Is one, stepping away when he clearly didn't have a passion for the job anymore. But, there's a lot of these older coaches that have retired because, frankly, it's just like the game has passed them by. I think if Bruce Pearl was passionate about coaching college basketball, I think he could have gone on easily for another, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12, 15 years, as long as he wanted to do it. Like, I think he very easily could have kept doing this if it was something that he was interested and inclined to do. I just don't think he really wanted to do it. But he is unquestionably the greatest coach in Auburn basketball history. Producer Matt, again, an Auburn alum, I think could maybe even contextualize it better. But, growing up and listen, I grew up in Big East country. SEC basketball for a long time was really just Kentucky and everybody else. Then Billy Donovan comes along, and it's Billy Donovan and everybody else. But Auburn basketball was probably amongst the power conference schools the least noteworthy of any school in college. But it just didn't matter. Like, it was just, who cares? Like, it's just not even a team that you think about, except when Kentucky's coming to town once every 2 years, or when they're playing at Rupp Arena, okay? But at the same time, this dude changed Auburn basketball. This is a dude, 2-time SEC Coach of the Year at Auburn. On top of it, he won, 2 Final Fours at Auburn, multiple SEC regular season titles, 2 SEC tournament titles, And listen, they should build a statue. They should put up a statue of him outside of Auburn like tomorrow. I don't think it's hyperbole to say. By the way, growing up as a kid, you would hear about all the great venues in college basketball: Cameron Indoor Arena, Rupp Arena, Gamble Pavilion at UConn, the Carrier Dome at the time was rocking. Nobody ever talked about Neville Arena, Auburn, Alabama, as one of the best venues in college basketball. Bruce Pearl did that. What I also think is worth noting, and I don't think we should dismiss this, I think you can absolutely argue that Bruce Pearl maybe is the greatest coach in Tennessee basketball history as well. Now, maybe Rick Barnes has surpassed him. Back-to-back Elite Eights for Rick Barnes. He hasn't gotten that elusive Final Four yet. But, Rick Barnes took over in a tough spot. But again, Bruce Pearl took over in a spot where, really, again, it was just, I don't know what Tennessee basketball was before Bruce Pearl, but I know it was not good. Immediately steps in. This dude, in every single year that he was at Tennessee, incredibly, he was only there for 6 years. We all know the nonsense and the reason that he left. Made 6 straight NCAA tournaments. And I think he was really just getting it going at Tennessee when, of course, the Aaron Kraft barbecue situation happened. And I'll say this, as a dude that's gotten to know Bruce Pearl a little bit, I'm happy that he had that second chapter at Auburn because, one, the whole barbecue situation was BS from the freaking beginning. And 2, I'm glad that's not his legacy. And 2, I'm glad that it's like something nobody cares about anymore. We're just talking about Bruce Pearl, the basketball coach. So incredible. The best coach in Auburn history. You could argue, along with Rick Barnes, probably the best coach in Tennessee basketball history. I'll say this too. One other thought on Bruce Pearl is that, this era of SEC basketball, okay, so the SEC is obviously unbelievable. What they have, 13 NCAA tournament teams, 12 NCAA tournament teams a year ago. This era of SEC basketball, where all of these schools have gone out and paid for elite coaches. Chris Beard at Ole Miss, Rick Barnes at Tennessee, whoever. I'm trying to think of who are the other big name coaches. Frank Martin was at South Carolina, got hired away from a power conference school. You go on and on down the list. It really started with Bruce Pearl. I mean, you can go through all the different coaches, all the different places, whatever. Bruce Pearl was really like that first big name to go to the non-basketball school and say, you know what, I think I can win here. Let's go ahead and gear the F up because we're about to win in a place that's never won before. So a lot of, I think you can say, like, if we were doing a Mount Rushmore of most impactful coaches in SEC basketball history, I think Bruce Pearl would absolutely have to be one, the impact that he had. Finally, let me say this. By the way, before we get to it, you know what I got to do really quickly. I do have to thank our friends. I got to thank our casino and hotel sponsor. I got to thank Circa Sportsbook, Circa Casino. Okay, so listen, I've told you all about Circa 100 times, but Circa, best place when you're in Vegas to go watch a game, biggest sportsbook in the world. The good news is if you live on the East Coast, if you live in Tennessee, if you live in Kentucky, if you live in Indiana, they have created a replica sports book at Mint Kentucky Downs in Franklin, Kentucky, okay? So Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky is now officially a Circa sports book, and you can go there and check out all the games. And I think the best part about Circa now being on the East Coast is that you need a sports book. We got all these apps, all these whatever, and guess what? You don't want to pay thousands of dollars for YouTube TV and Sunday Ticket and Peacock and Paramount. All you got to do, Mint Kentucky Downs, Circa Sportsbook, Franklin, Kentucky. Check them out. Do me a favor. If you go, tag at Circa Sports, at Aaron_Torres. Let them know that Torres sent you there. By the way, since we have a nice audience, a lot of college hoops fans, guess what? I'll be doing a couple live shows from Mint Kentucky Downs as we get closer to college basketball. But thank you to Circa, Mint Kentucky Downs, for their support of the Aaron Torres pod. And oh, by the way, if you're in Vegas, make sure to check out the Circa Casino as well. Should mention one more thing, by the way. I don't know how many Auburn fans we have in here as much as just diehard college basketball fans, but we do have our Torres on Auburn page, Torres on Auburn, for all of your late-breaking Auburn news, Torres on Auburn on Twitter. Really quickly, before I get to your questions, one last thought, and it's something that, and by the way, BO does say, I've been to Circa. It's awesome. It's an incredible, incredible place. I'll say this, when you're in Vegas, a lot of you are probably going out to Vegas maybe for that, the Players era, The Players Era is that big, 32 team tournament or whatever it ends up being in Vegas around Thanksgiving. Check out Circa Sports. I might be doing some shows from there as well. Opening night of college hoops, by the way, is now 42 days away. And so I just bring it up because go to Mint Kentucky Downs to check it out. Or also you can check it out at Aaron underscore Torres. You can also check them out if you're in Vegas, but also Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky. Again, I'll be out there for the opening night of college hoops in Vegas. I'll be at the Circa Sportsbook. That is Florida and Arizona, BYU and Villanova. And then I'll also be out there the week of the Players Era event. So if you're going out, if you're a Tennessee fan, if you're a whatever, let's go ahead and find us out there. Really quickly, one more thing, and then I'm going to get to some of your questions, is basically the last thing I would say. Some people in the chat are asking about Stephen Pearl. This is the only one we don't have an answer to, right? And I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I know what Stephen Pearl is going to be as a head coach. By the way, listen, let me say this. If Roy Williams gets to pick his replacement with no prior coaching experience and Coach K gets to find his replacement with no prior coaching experience, I have no problem with Bruce Pearl helping out his son. His son's been on that staff, the entire time, helped build it. He's obviously the guy that's doing a lot of legwork. I would also say too, there's a great staff around Stephen Pearl that I think is going to help him succeed. You go on and on down the list. Burgomaster, Burgo, I apologize if I butchered your name there. Mike Burgomaster is a monster. He's one of the most well-respected assistant coaches in college basketball, really kind of known as an analytics type guy. And so he is still on staff. You go on and on down the list. They have the infrastructure in place. I should also give a shout out on top of that. I'm just looking to make sure there's no official release from the school yet, but I just bring it up because on top of that, I think Ira Bowman is another future head coach. He played in the Ivy League. He is a guy that I think, has been up for Ivy League. I'm not just pigeonholing him as an Ivy League guy, but I think there's minimum 2 other assistant coaches on that staff that will be head coaches. And so I think Stephen Pearl is in good shape. All I will say is, that's the one part I can't answer. I have no idea what is realistic and what isn't for this program going forward. Listen, we know what the history is, but we also know that in the new era of college sports, anyone that's at an SEC school is going to have an advantage. Stephen Pearl, he's going to be learning on the job like anybody else would. But, if you're just looking at jobs, apples to apples, would you rather have the Auburn job or the Gonzaga job? I mean, I know Gonzaga's got history for the last 20 years. I think I'd probably rather have Auburn or Georgetown. Georgetown, congrats on all those trophies from the 90s. I'd rather have the Auburn job. So I just bring it up because to me, I think being in the SEC helps. Having the NIL set up that any SEC school is going to have helps. And he's going to be in position to succeed. I would add too, by the way, I understand that the portal is going to open and these players are going to be able to leave if they're so inclined. I don't really think it's going to happen. The semester has already started. By the way, that's for people asking why now. In addition to getting his son the head coaching job, my guess is too, you wait this long so that nobody can transfer. I mean, I hate to be a jerk about it, but guys are kind of stuck, right? Guys are kind of stuck from the perspective of, basically if you want to transfer, guess what? There's not really anywhere to go. They can't get you into school in late September. And so was it a little bit, whatever? I don't know. But I just bring it up. I don't really expect the guys on that roster to leave. A lot of them are making great NIL money. At this point, transparently, I don't think the money is going to be better at another place. Now, maybe for the 7th, 8th, 9th man, maybe you take a red shirt and you find a spot that makes more sense from you if you're not going to be playing this year. But if you're Tahad Pettiford, if you're Keyshawn Hall, the big transfer from UCF, you're getting paid a lot of money. It's not going to benefit you to go somewhere else. And unless I misunderstand, you cannot play somewhere else as well. So the portal stuff to me is kind of a non-starter. I don't think it matters at this point. Again, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th, 12th man. Okay, maybe differently. I don't think it matters for Tahad Pettiford, for Keyshawn Hall, for Keyshawn Murphy, the transfer from Mississippi State. As far as Stephen Pearl, we'll just go ahead and see, what's next for him. Let's very quickly get to a couple questions. First of all, Johnny Parker says Vegas resort fees out of the wazoo. Johnny Parker, Circa Sportsbook, Circa Casino, off the strip, I not positive, but I'm almost certain no resort fees. It's way cheaper to stay off the strip. You got to go to Circa. That's the spot you want to check out. By the way, Johnny is Evolve for Life, VFL. Johnny, you can give more perspective. I don't know where Bruce Pearl ranks compared to Rick Barnes or some others. I think you can make the conversation that he is in the short conversation as best coach ever at Tennessee. Speaking of which, we got a lot of Tennessee fans in here. Edward says, love Bruce, but to us fans are better off with Coach Barnes. Go Vols. Listen, Rick Barnes is a fucking, excuse my language. Oh my goodness, I just dropped one there. Rick Barnes is a legend as well. Let me say that. Let's see here. Let's get to some comments. Leslie says this is unexpected news. Leslie, we talked about it at the beginning. I actually don't think it is when you really think about it. Again, if producer Matt was here, we would have the clip of him on John Rothstein's show. But he basically said, I'm not motivated to get back to the national championship game. And it's like, if you're, or to get to a national championship and win a national championship, if you're not motivated to win a national championship, I think you're probably looking at other opportunities. Wildcat Rewind probably found out via our feed here because he says, what? Yes, Bruce Pearl is in fact retiring. LPZ says the SEC is losing a great coach. Alpha says definitely something major happened. To me, we'll get an announcement from Bruce Pearl. I don't think this is something scandalous. There have been coaches that have left jobs at inopportune times because maybe something came out about them that wasn't very good. I hate to say it because I actually like him as well, but the Auburn football coach currently is probably a good example of why he lost his last job. I could be wrong. I don't think that this is some nefarious, scandalous thing. I think he was ready to move on. He wanted to ensure his son got the head coaching job, and so he does. Andrew, why does Bro retire right before the season? We discussed that. Eddie Congress, I think, nails it. By the way, I love Eddie's thumbnail of me. I think I was scratching my nose, but it looks like I was picking my nose. He says, the real story, Bruce wants his son to get the job. It gives the school no choice. Nepotism at its finest. Like I said earlier, there is a historical thing here that's pretty relevant, is that, again, Jim Calhoun retired in mid-September of the fall of 2013 or 2012, which allowed his preferred assistant to get the job as well. His preferred assistant at the time was Kevin Ollie, and the rest is history there. Let's go ahead and get to a couple more questions. By the way, I appreciate everybody coming in here. We talked a little bit about this. We kind of decided to go with this, spur of the moment. Long story short, just got back from the gym. Boss Hog, hope his health is good. Listen, as far as his health, by the way, that does not look good, so we'll keep that. I don't, again, we'll find out, but I don't think it's health related. And the other thing too, because I think somebody referenced, like, is there something scandalous going on? You don't give the job to his son if something's scandalous. Like if he's got some family drama going on, or I don't even want to put that juju out there, you don't say, oh, who's going to take over here? It's his son. So yeah, LPG says the SEC is losing a good coach. I believe that. Let's see here. Todd Bowling, 100% with me. Todd Bowling says it's so his son could get the job. Eddie asks if he's such a good coaching prospect, why has no other school tried to hire him? I think it's because most other schools know that he was eventually going to be the Auburn head coach. Let's see here. Other questions. A lot of people saying that, you know what? Let's get to this one. Andrew White says Torres does hard work and doesn't get enough credit. Torres the man. Good on ya. Dude, thank you, man. And we appreciate your support. First of all, great live audience here on a Thursday afternoon or Monday afternoon. We don't do afternoons and evenings anymore. I just think with the football schedule, it makes it so tough. By the time you get home from work on a Monday night, a Thursday night, or whatever, you want to watch football. So we haven't been able to go live at this time, but we appreciate your support. Let's get to a couple other questions. Leslie, listen, I think there's going to be an announcement about politics soon. LPZ says the same thing. I think that he will be getting into politics. Again, some of you are more political than I am. I know there's some Senate seat or something that's opening. It's not my thing. I know when we got to pick a new president. I know when it's time to vote out my governor in California, not to get political, but I just bring it up because I don't know all of the mechanisms and what role he would be up for, but I think that's where this is going. Let's see here. I'm not even going to get to that one. Let's see here. You know, Keith keeps saying stuff about how his comments are, his public comments have impacted recruiting. Bruce Pearl's been very political for years on social media. If you follow him on social media, he's been political for years. And so I just bring it up because it hasn't impacted his recruiting. As a matter of fact, we got a lot of Arkansas fans in the chat. I'll tell you a funny side story. So a few weeks ago, and I'll just say it, I don't really care. When John Gruden, the video came out of John Gruden wanting to become a head coach in the SEC. And, I did the segment on it. I had somebody reach out to me and say, Torres, there's no way that anyone's going to hire John Gruden after his emails came out a few months ago. And this is my one sentence response. And it was a question in one sentence. I said, you don't think so? Well, I said, you don't think somebody's going to hire John Gruden? My response was pretty simple. I said, have you seen Bruce Pearl's Twitter feed? Okay. Bruce Pearl's been very political for a very long time. I have no problem with it. It's his personal platform. I don't care. I know he's a state employee, or he was a state employee up until today, whatever. I just bring it up because I don't think it's politics. And it clearly hasn't hurt his recruiting. He had quite literally the best team in college basketball last year for about 85% of the year. This year, he would have had what I believe to be a top 15 or so team. Now, I might have to update the top 25 if anybody leaves, or conversely, just drop him a few spots because they have a first-time head coach. I don't think his political comments on social media are the reason that he is retiring. I just think the truth of the matter is that I think he's just ready to move on. Do we have any other questions? Any other comments? 67. I guess that's his age. So this is an interesting point by Robert. Make his son the interim this year and conduct an appropriate search. If his son wins, it's fine. If not, move on. I don't, we'll get an official release from Auburn here in the coming hours. But for people who missed the beginning of this, if you're watching live, I mentioned 2012, Jim Calhoun wanted Kevin Ollie as his replacement. Unfortunately, the AD at the time, Ward Manuel, who's now the Michigan AD, basically said, it ain't happening. When you leave, I'm making my own decision on the next head coach. Well, Jim Calhoun said, not so fast, my friend, and ended up retiring in September. And Kevin Ollie, people forget, was actually an interim head coach in the fall or in the 2012-2013 season. And so I only bring it up because he eventually ended up getting the full-time job. And so that's the one thing I don't know. Is Stephen Pearl the full-time head coach, like 5-year contract, you're the guy? Or is he going to get the job on an interim basis and have to prove it? I think we'll find out from there. Let's get to a couple more questions. By the way, before we get to some questions, you know what I got to do? I got to thank our friends. I got to thank our partners. I got to go ahead and thank Collie Puffs, ColliePuffs.com. Family-owned company, not far from where I live. Collie Puffs. Listen, it's that time of year. You watch a lot of college football. You're also watching a lot of college basketball coming up. And as you sit on the couch, you need a snack that is both healthy but delicious, something your kids are going to love, something your grandkids, something you're going to love. You need Collie Puffs. This is the new age health food snack in your grocery aisle. Delicious, baked not fried, avocado oil, no grease, healthy ingredients. You don't need the crap. You don't need Doritos. You don't need Fritos. You don't need whatever. You need Collie Puffs. Here's the best part, though. You don't even need to take my word for it. At this point, what you need to do is try Collie Puffs out for yourself. This is all you got to do. Go to ColliePuffs.com. That's ColliePuffs.com, CAULIPUFFS.com, ColliePuffs.com. If you use promo code Torres, you get 15% off. Promo code Torres gets you 15% off of Collie Puffs. ColliePuffs.com, promo code Torres. We appreciate their support of the Aaron Torres pod. Really quickly, we'll get to some of your questions. To reiterate for people who are joining us live, to me, why this is happening, 3 reasons. 1, I think he wants to get into politics. I think he wanted his son to get the head coaching job. And as importantly, and we just talked about it, He did an interview 2 or 3 weeks ago. We don't have the audio because we wanted to go live immediately with John Rothstein. In that interview, he said point blank, he said he's no longer motivated by winning a national championship at Auburn. Rothstein basically said, how much time do you think you have left? He said something to the effect of, a year or two tops. And then on top of it, he also just kind of said, you know what? Rothstein kind of said, well, you were one game away from that Monday night, San Antonio last year. Are you inspired to get back? And he was just kind of like, actually, no. I've won a D2 national championship. I've coached in 2 Final Fours. It doesn't motivate me. My guess is that he will get into the local political scene. Again, I don't know exactly what that looks like. Let's get to some more of your questions. Should mention again, as always, whether you're an Auburn fan, a Tennessee fan, a Kentucky fan, a UConn fan, if you need tickets to any game, certainly as we get closer to basketball, we got a lot of Arkansas fans in here. Arkansas fans are going to want tickets to all of those big games. The exhibition in Memphis, wherever you want to go. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres. Let's get to some more of your questions. Let's see here. All right. Eric, why is Bruce Pearl retiring? We talked about this, to lead the show. I just mentioned it, but I think it is to start a political career. Listen, and I don't even know, can he get into politics? I don't know. Work in politics, get his son the head coaching job. And when you publicly are saying that you're no longer motivated to win a national championship, the clock is ticking. Keith is adamant that he's getting kicked out. Keith, I love you, buddy. Be clear. I appreciate anyone's support of the Aaron Torres pod. At the same time, Keith, let's use our brains, okay? Let's what was the line from A League of Their Own? Use your head. That's that lump 3 feet above your ass. Keith, if he's getting kicked out, if they are forcing him to retire, if it is a controversial decision, why are they promoting his son? It doesn't make sense. Keith, listen, we don't talk politics on this show. I don't really care where anyone leans. What you talk about in your home is fine for you. If I was Bruce Pearl, I wouldn't be as vocal about politics as I am. But again, if this was them forcing him to leave because of political opinions, then they would not be promoting his son. Great question. Boss Hog says, when is the press conference? I haven't been on social media, so I don't know. I don't know if or when a press conference has been announced. I assume that he'll probably have a press conference at some point. Let's see here. More comments. BO says, been to Circa. It's awesome. Reminder, Circa is our official casino and hotel sponsor. I've done a bunch of shows from Circa Casino in Vegas. Remember, they have opened a replica sports book, Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky. Make sure to check it out. Mint Kentucky Downs, Franklin, Kentucky. As we get closer to basketball season, I will be down there. If we have any Kentucky fans in the chat, would love to know, what game do you want me to get down for? I was thinking maybe the week of the Indiana game. The Indiana game is the first weekend after the college football conference championship game. So I don't think there will be any college football playoff games that weekend. That feels like a good weekend to do it. I think Louisville may have a big home game that weekend as well. So I'm thinking about it. We'll see what happens. Let's go here. Let's see here. Going through NCAA tournament every year is stressful. All right. Steve, let's see. Johnny says Steven is going to win the national championship watch. I don't know. As I said, Ira Bowman, Mike Burgomaster, those are two dudes that are going to be head coaches at some point. And so my guess is that, yes, at some point, I think they're going to be successful. There's too much brain power on that team. By the way, I should mention one other thing. I do think there's one other reason why it came out today. So today, so it's interesting, the way the practice structure is for college basketball, okay? So you have summer workouts. Then when kids get back to campus for fall semester, you can work them out like 8 hours a week. This is the first week you go to the full in-session, in-season practice schedule. So today is the first day of practice for many of the biggest programs in college basketball, like official practice, 20 hours a week, whatever that comes out to, 4 hours a day, whatever. And so I just bring it up because this would be the day to do it. Obviously, Bruce Pearl isn't going to start a bunch of practices and then retire a week before the season. So I'll be curious. Again, the transfer portal does open for players. I don't think it's going to impact things very much. I don't think the best players are going to leave because they'd have to redshirt. The NIL money, frankly, is not going to be better somewhere else than it is at Auburn right now, especially in this post-rev share world. So I would say that's it. Really quickly, let me see if there's any other questions, any other comments. Tim, roll tide, but this is shocking. By the way, I didn't know Bruce Pearl was such a uniting figure. We have Alabama fans, Arkansas fans, Tennessee fans, Kentucky fans in the chat. Let's see. So we got a lot of people in the chat from different schools. I don't know if I've seen an Auburn fan. The Auburn fans are still mad about that refereeing fiasco in Norman, Oklahoma. Here we go. This is a good one from Integrity Sports Podcast, who sounds like an Auburn fan. Bruce built this program to be bigger than himself. I can't think of a better fit to replace him than Steven. Listen, I think it's – listen, we've certainly seen plenty of things in sports where fathers have – and I know there's nepotism across other cultures and other whatevers as well. But, look at the NBA. I live in LA. Look at the Los Angeles Lakers. If Bronny can get one of 450 spots in the NBA, Stephen Pearl can be a head coach in the SEC. I don't really care. All right, crowd has been awesome. I'll tell you what, I do think I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Ed, who actually texted me, just says, thanks for the emergency pod. You're going to have to go back and listen to it because we've been live for 41 minutes, but we're going to get out of here. If you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. This is why you got to be live. You got to be subscribed. You never know when we're going to go live. As Andrew said earlier, Torres is a guy that works hard. So, I go live when there's stuff to talk about. So thank you all for listening. If you're not subscribed, make sure to do so. Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Music, wherever you get your podcast. I'll probably end up doing another just a little bit on Tuesday's show. We will be back Tuesday. I think there's an interesting update in the world of Sam Pittman that is worth discussing. I think on top of it, there is also, I heard some other interesting audio that I think is worth discussing as well. So we'll be back Tuesday morning. But if you're not subscribed, make sure to do so. Make sure to subscribe to the pod, Apple, Spotify, etc. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you to Circa Casino, Circa Sportsbook. Thank you to SeatGeek, SeatGeek.com, promo code Torres, $20 off your first purchase. And then finally, thank you to Collie Puffs. Time for me to go. Time for me to shower because I just got back from the gym, like I said, and was not anticipating doing it today, but I'm not surprised. Shout out to Torrent Craig. Shout out to Rachel Aids My Voice. By the way, JB does say we do have an Auburn fan in here. Shout out JB. JB, you could give really quickly some better perspective on what Bruce Pearl means to that school. JB, if you're new here, our producer Matt, is an Auburn alum. He was actually in Norman this past weekend, was traveling Sunday, and I have him doing some other stuff today. I think it's a sad day. I actually don't think Auburn fans are as surprised as maybe some non-Auburn fans that haven't been following this. But Bruce Pearl is officially retired. And I want to last thought, because I did mention it earlier. I want to thank Coach Pearl. Coach Pearl, you're probably not going to watch this. Maybe I'll have Matt clip it off. Early in my career, I think Bruce Pearl was one of the first head coaches that really kind of took me seriously as a media member, took me seriously as a person that he could trust. And, it's not above him, quote unquote, to do this show. So thank you to Bruce Pearl. I'd say enjoy retirement. I don't think it's really a retirement. I think he has a future ahead of him outside of basketball. And as I said, whether you agree with his politics or not, I think it's noble to want to, I think he wants to make the world a better place. And I think it's noble to have interests outside of sports. I love sports. I love what I do. I want to do this till the day I die, but I don't know how I'll feel at 65. So he has decided that it's time for him to move on. I wish him luck in his next journey. As I said, I don't think he's going to be a guy that's just playing golf for the next 4 months or for the rest of his life, 4 or 5 days a week. Time for me to go. Thank you for listening. Again, appreciate your support. Shout out to Torrent Craig. Shout out to Rachel, who hates my voice. Shout out to JJ Reddick, Ed. By the way, last thing. Ed says, I bet Matt is crying. Matt, I hope he's okay. I will say this. I think Matt's okay. I think Matt's okay. I think, listen, I think Auburn fans feel lucky they had Bruce Pearl for as long as they did. I didn't realize this. Bruce Pearl was only at Tennessee for 6 seasons. It feels like it was much longer. He was at Auburn for 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He was at Auburn for 11 seasons. So you got basically a Hall of Fame coach for 11 years. And I think, again, I think Auburn fans kind of maybe had an idea that this was coming. Time for me to go. Thank you all for tuning in on a Monday at 2:40 Eastern time, because this was not something I expected to be talking about. Shout out to Torrent Craig. Rachel hates my voice. JJ Reddick, you F-head, unblock me, bro. Shout out to SeatGeek. $20 off your first purchase. Promo code Torres. Collie Puffs. 15% off your first purchase, any purchase. Code Torres. And Circa Casino and Sportsbook. Best in the business. I'll be there in Vegas, and I'm coming to Kentucky soon, people. So we appreciate your support.